Hi guys, how are you today? Are you ready for new stories? The first story is a very crazy one. So OP and her sister are no contact for around 10 years because of how badly sister treated OP when they were little. Now OP is getting married, and sister wants to be honored at her wedding because she was married to her husband for 10 years and they have 5 children together. Do you want to know how exactly OP's sister wants to be honored? If so, listen to the story. I personally was shocked hearing the story and how delusional people can be. It's a long one, guys, so listen till the end to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't be shy to leave a comment. I'll call my fiancée Amy and her sister Amber for clarity. Amy moved from another country to the city where I live to attend college, where we met. Amy and I became best friends almost instantly and started dating a few months later. I brought her to meet my family before we ever started dating, and they all loved her straight away and started treating her like part of the family. After the first Christmas we spent together with my family, she burst into tears and told me how being a part of a loving, supportive family like this is what she had always wanted. She confessed to me that growing up, her parents constantly prioritized Amber, younger than my fiancé by 3 years. Both of her parents are suspected narcissists, and from what I've read, I don't think there's a clearer example of narcissistic parents favoring one child over the other than in the case of my fiancé and her sister. As a teenager, Amy was required to work 2 jobs. When she struggled finding a second job, especially considering she was in high school, she was kicked out. She lived with her best friend for about a month before she finally got a second job. Her parents took every cent of both paychecks and wouldn't let her see any of it. She was never allowed to go out or do anything other than go to school and to work. She was strictly not allowed to date because if you need a boyfriend before you're 25, you're a W. They would refuse to buy her even basic toiletries like toothpaste and shampoo. They also came from a place where it snows and gets very cold in the winter. They refused to buy her appropriate winter shoes and a coat, which led to her getting sick quite often and missing a good chunk of school. Despite this, she was still a straight-A student. When it came time for her to graduate high school, they didn't allow her to get senior pictures taken and refused to allow her to attend prom because she didn't deserve it, despite having the highest mark in not 1, but 2 classes out of her entire graduating class, meaning she got honors. Through all this, she was horribly mentally and emotionally abused. She got into college but couldn't afford it yet, so she had to defer her acceptance by a year to save up. Once she did, she moved away, paid for it all herself, and hadn't spoken to them since she graduated high school. Amber, on the other hand, was treated like a little princess. Anytime she asked, her parents gave her money. We're not certain, but it's likely that Amber's spending money came out of Amy's paycheck that was stolen by her parents. As young as 13 years old, Amber was allowed to stay out as late as she pleased, as long as she texted to let her parents know she was okay. She more than once was obviously drunk or high while underaged, and she was almost celebrated for it in a weird way. Her parents would just sort of laugh and jokingly say, "Well, that's what your teens are for." At least once a month, Amber and her mother would go on a full-out shopping spree. Amber always had the latest brand-name clothes, makeup, electronics, you name it. She got a 19-year-old boyfriend, I'll call him Nick, when she was 15, and her parents not only had no problem with it, they were excited to welcome him into the family. They went out to dinner, to the movies, and went on vacations all together, all without Amy, because Amber didn't like Amy's attitude. A complete crock of crap because, 1, Amy is one of the sweetest, most mild-mannered people you'd ever meet, even to people who are complete dummies. And 2, I'd have had a crap attitude too if my family was treating me this way. Because she was brought up watching it, Amber learned to treat Amy like crap too, and taught that to Nick. The 2 of them would constantly invade her privacy, go through her room, steal from her, read her diary, destroy her things, left her nasty notes everywhere, etc. But somehow, through all of this, they convinced her parents that Amy was the problem, and they were the victims. So, more abuse for Amy. Amber would refuse to even look at Amy, and eventually, her parents forbade her from being in the main areas of the house when Amber or Nick were there, because it just upset them so much. Yeah, nonsense. Amber ended up getting pregnant in the winter of her sophomore year. Her parents, naturally, were thrilled. She dropped out of high school and married Nick. her parents gave her legal consent for their 16-year-old daughter to be married off. It is worth mentioning that Nick showed up in jeans, ratty sneakers, and a button-up shirt, which I think is just hysterical. Amber got every single thing she wanted for the wedding. From the dress, to the church venue, to the shoes, to the bouquet, and everything in between. She had the kid, and she and Nick moved in with her parents. Neither of them worked. Nick went off during the day to drag race cars, and Amber just sat in front of the TV all day. This left Amy to basically raise her nephew for the first year of his life. When the year came that Amber was supposed to have graduated high school, she got a full set of senior pictures, hair, makeup, nails, lashes, everything professionally done. A custom prom dress worth over $800. Her parents bought her a car, a new laptop, and sent her and her boyfriend on a vacation to the mountains for the weekend. Amy obviously got stuck with babysitting duty. Like I said, thankfully, Amy moved away and hadn't spoken to them in several years. In December of 2019, I proposed to her on our anniversary. We were supposed to get married this past December, but for obvious reasons, that didn't happen. We put wedding planning entirely on hold so that we could focus on staying safe and healthy. Now that things are starting to settle down a little bit, at least where we live, we decided to officially start planning our wedding, with a tentative date of December 2022. Amy recently got back into contact with only her mother, as her mom divorced her dad, reached out to try to have some sort of relationship with her eldest daughter. So when it came time to wedding planning, her mom was slightly involved here and there, and considered in everything. I wasn't a huge fan of the idea, but like I said above, Amy is a huge people please and has a really hard time setting boundaries. My oldest sister, Amy's maid of honor, decided to host a Google Meet call for the family to sit and start making wedding arrangements. At Amy's request, her mom was included in the call. It started off good. Her mom seemed relatively well behaved, and all was going well until 10 minutes into the call. Out of nowhere, Amber joined. With her was Nick. Naturally, we were all shocked, and Amy was starting to panic. We asked how they were able to join the call, and they said that Amy's mother sent them the link. Off the bat, I was furious. They said that they just wanted to be a part of the wedding planning. We left it up to Amy. Naturally, the sweetheart that she is, she allowed them to stay. So we were talking details. Having been engaged for over a year at this point, we had a general idea of things, like the venue, the colors, the decor, etc. As we're talking about all of this, Amber keeps clearing her throat and looking pissed. When we finally acknowledged her, this is what she says. "I'm just wondering what Amy and OP are going to do to honor Nick and I at the wedding." It was truly a record-scratch moment for the ages. When my sister's husband, the least polite of our family, still a stand-up dude though, asked her just what the hell she meant, she elaborated. "Well, Nick and I have been married for almost 10 years. We have 5 children together. Our love blazed the way and showed Amy what true love looks like. Nick and I never got a proper wedding because I was only 16 and pregnant. So I think it's only fair that we get some sort of special attention at the wedding." Not verbatim, but you get the gist. That's when her mom joined in. She suggested that after Amy, the bride, walks down the aisle, that Amber and Nick should walk down the aisle to their own special song and stand at the altar with Amy and I. She suggested that she should get to say their vows too and get special acknowledgement from the officiant. Amber then jumped back in with her idea that at the reception, she and Nick could get their own sweetheart table and that Amy and I's first dance be shared with them, as long as they get to pick the song. I can't even lie and pretend I did the noble thing. I lost it on these basket cases. I started yelling and screaming about how not only were they not invited, but if any of what they suggested were to happen, I'd likely try and roundhouse kick them in the heads. I laid out how terrible they'd been to Amy and what terrible, truly disgusting people I thought they were. They tried arguing back, saying that Amy was a bee and she was the one who caused all of the problems in the family. I slammed the computer shut and had to walk away. When I came back, Amy was in a full-on panic attack. As soon as we left the meeting, her phone started blowing up with texts from her mother and sister telling her what a bad daughter, sister she was, how the family had been so much better since she left, etc. I tried my best to console her, but the damage had been done. Amy feels like maybe they're right, that maybe she was being selfish in planning our wedding. I feel like they're complete idiots and have no idea what it means to love. I also feel so bad for Amy. She's been in therapy for the past few years to deal with the mental side effects of abuse, but this really set her off. She won't even talk about the wedding. It's been over a week. I'm completely at a loss over what to do and ducking furious. How do I convince Amy that she is in no way required to consider her family's demands? How do I make her feel better? In my opinion, Amy made a very big mistake breaking the no contact. Look what a heartache it has caused her. Your wedding day is for you and your husband. Nobody else gets a special dance during your dance, much less to pick the song. Nobody gets a sweetheart table or to stand at the altar while you make your wedding vows. Sounds like her mother just wanted Amy's help giving her golden child Amber more of the things Amber deserves. Nothing has changed. OP must block them and completely delete them from her life. And poor Amy's normal meter is broken. She's been conditioned that she's in the wrong, no matter what. She needs to keep seeing the therapist. I'm also very happy she found such a loving and shining spine future husband as OP. Good luck to them both. Edit. Some clarification. Amy is very much in therapy and has been for as long as I've known her. She's made some tremendous progress over the years, but obviously, when something like this happens, it's bound to rattle you a little bit. She sees her therapist every 2 weeks, and her next appointment is this upcoming week. She has asked me to go with her. I've been to several of her appointments before, so her therapist is happy to include me in the session. And I'm very much willing to do so. As of right now, Amy has stated to me that she wishes to, tentatively, continue planning our wedding. She has decided not to include her family after all, and resume no contact. She will be discussing this with her therapist when we see her. As I'm sure you've gathered, going against her family's wishes is extremely hard for her, and as much as I love her and wish I could do this all for her, it's ultimately up to her. As it stands, she's back to no contact. I've suggested blocking her family, but I think that might be where the therapist needs to come in. I can't wait for her to hopefully gain a new perspective and feel at least a little bit vindicated that she's doing the right thing. This happened in 2013, but as there has never been so much as an apology, it's still festering. A little background. This story includes my once favorite aunt. We'll call her AB. And my N sister. We'll call her Narcissa. There's also a cousin. We'll call her cousin. And my uncle who no one likes. We'll call him Grumpy Uncle. My mom, AB's sister, passed away in 2013 after a long battle with an illness. The months leading up to her death were tense. Perhaps that's a story for another time, though. My dad took on planning the memorial all on his own. He's a man who doesn't like to ask for help, but sometimes has what I would call blinders on, and definitely stepped on some toes when planning this. How, you ask? Well, for one thing, he planned the memorial on AB's birthday. I tried to talk him out of it, but he just kept insisting that was the only day it was possible. Whatever. My dad doesn't have a malicious bone in his body, so I'm sure that AB would understand should he be given a chance to explain. The day comes and the auditorium fills with people I've never met, family, friends, and loved ones. AB, Narcissa, and the gang of flying monkeys are seated up front. I sat towards the back with the only friend of mine who showed up, and my dad led the show. Up on the stage sits my mom's urn, with a necklace wrapped around it. There's a slideshow of Mom's life. A handful of people get up and say something nice about my mom, and then everyone is invited to the after party, for lack of a better term. Moments after everyone starts leaving, I remember there being a small commotion from across the room. I see my dad red in the face and puffed up. I see Grumpy Uncle red in the face and puffed up. And then I see AB standing ramrod straight and just glaring up at my dad with tears in her eyes. I have never seen my dad filled with so much hate. It took me a few minutes to even get him to look away from her. He just kept repeating, "Give it back." And they were replying with choruses of, "It's not yours. She bought it." He didn't raise his voice. Everything about his body language was threatening, but his voice stayed calm. Finally, I got him to turn to me long enough to say, "She stole your mom's necklace off her urn." And that was all it took. I have never been so angry. I have never been so full of hate. I don't fully remember what they said. I don't remember what I said, but I know it was said with much less grace and way more curse words. Grumpy Uncle piped up with, "It's her birthday." Narcissa stood towards the back of the room and muttered something about me being trash. Cousin flipped me off. After some choice words for Grumpy Uncle I've been saving my whole life, they left. In the ensuing chaos, a family friend told me she watched AB walk up to the urn, make sure no one was looking, and then quickly rip the necklace off of the urn and stuffed it down her shirt. Suddenly, Narcissa comes stomping down the aisle, hands my dad the necklace, and walks back out. No apology, nothing. Afterwards, we all went to the restaurant and had tequila shots in her honor. And everywhere I turned, people were helping me numb the shock of what had happened. The disgust and disappointment of my own favorite aunt was overwhelming. The best part is, my mom had two similar necklaces. One from AB and one from my dad. The one from my dad is the one wrapped around the urn. The one from AB is hanging in my rearview mirror, and it is the only item of hers that I have. This is the story of the last straw with AB and the beginning of my no-contact life with that side of the family. She not only stole from a dead woman at her memorial with everyone watching, but it wasn't even the necklace that she gave to her in the first place. What absolute duckery is this? I'm glad OP went no contact with them. It's better to stay away from people like that. I'll start off by saying I am trying to figure out what is reasonable and what isn't. My future sister-in-law is getting married in September. I've been dating her brother since 2016, and we've been engaged since March 2019. I think that this might touch a bit on just no-so in some ways, so please, gentle advice all around. Future dear husband is going to walk future sister-in-law down the aisle at her wedding with her older brother, as their father passed away 5 years ago and isn't able to walk her himself. Older brother's wife is a last-minute addition as bridesmaid, as one of future sister-in-law's friends bowed out. I am not in the wedding party, but I never expected or thought I should or would be. I want to make it very clear that I am not bitter or upset that I am not in the wedding party, or that I wasn't asked to be a bridesmaid. Future sister-in-law and I are cordial right now, but I don't really consider us to be friends. My question does lay in if I am being unreasonable. Future sister-in-law texted future dear husband saying that he and older brother needed to come to the venue early because they'll need to take pictures before guests arrive. She's providing shuttles to and from the wedding and was worried that future dear husband and older brother would be late for pictures if they took the shuttle. Future dear husband's family usually lumps a couple together, meaning if future sister-in-law is invited somewhere, it is assumed that the invitation includes her fiancé. Future dear husband, future mother-in-law, and future sister-in-law all have a group chat that I am not included in, and neither is future sister-in-law's fiancé, where they invite each other to things and discuss potential plans, and it's expected that future sister-in-law and future dear husband relay the information to their significant other. So when future dear husband said that him and older brother needed to get to the venue early for pictures, I asked what time that meant I had to be ready by so that we could go. He said he didn't know, and it came out that future sister-in-law's plans for pictures doesn't include me being in them at all. I was a bit surprised by this, but I told future dear husband that I understand that it's future sister-in-law's day, and it's up to her who is in her pictures and who isn't. But does that also mean that I don't get to travel to the wedding with future dear husband because he'll already be there? As it is right now, I'll be traveling alone to the ceremony, seated separately from future dear husband during the ceremony because I'm not in the wedding party, seated separately during the reception from future dear husband because I'm not in the wedding party, and I won't be included in the family pictures that they'll be taking. I've never been to a wedding where I've had a significant other in the wedding party, so I don't really understand if this is just how it is. I am sad that how future sister-in-law has planned her wedding out, I'm not allowed to tag along and just be around while they take pictures or do anything as a family, even though I'll be marrying her brother roughly 9 months after she gets married. Am I overreacting to something that is pretty common sense? I think OP is being way too nice in this situation, and her future husband is being spineless for not saying anything and asking to include his future wife everywhere. In my opinion, the bride is actively and purposely excluding OP, from not wanting her in the photos to not seating her with her partner at the table. If there is no ability to move around after the formal stuff is done, then OP should politely leave. It's weird that a fiancé with an impending wedding date would be excluded from family photos if married spouses were included. Most families would consider OP pretty much married at that point. But some families are just a-holes.